72.
72, 71, 81, I'll say 70 plus. Ruby?
74.
74, okay. Jack 68, James 69.
69.
Thank you. Ben?
I'm just 65.
65, well, you're just a youngster.
Yes, I'm the age.
I have 66, 74. Myrna?
70.
All right. Harold?
73.
66. Survey group. We call on the phone. And they go through about 10 minutes of questions, and then they get to your age. And I say, well, I'm 65 or 68 or whatever. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't, you can't use it, you know. As if my brain had dried up when I got my opinion was no longer valid. So, I mean, this is the thing that would certainly cause resentment in my thinking.
Well, some of you others, how do you think those in their, say, 30s and 40s view you? What do you think their notion is of your category of the 65 plus?
I don't really know what they think, you know, but I do know that I object to people saying, you can't do that because you're too old. But, you know, I think I can. So.
That's true. I think it depends on how the person was trained, whether they respect elderly people or I don't consider myself elderly, though. I'm more active now than I was when I was 30. I do more and more, I exercise more than when I was 30 now. One thing I have to.
How do you view yourselves as 65 plussers?
It's great. It's really great.
Tell me why it's great.
Well, you know, I retired from the federal government too. We don't have to go to work. If it's snowing, we can just settle down with our paper and have another cup of coffee and watch the rest of them take off. And in Virginia, you were glad when the snow was blowing that you didn't have to take off. You have time to do things. In fact, well, you'd have time unless you get awfully busy. And right now, I'm bogged down. I do volunteer work, and I play bridge that I didn't have time to do, and I play golf, and we go here and we go there, and it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We don't have the responsibility of a family, so we've got all the good things.
I'm reading in the paper. They're talking about something happened. A lady was mugged, an elderly woman of 65, and you know, I'm not elderly. I don't feel elderly. I'm 70, but I certainly don't feel that way. I think one of the hardest things to understand, younger people to understand, would be that when you look in the mirror, you're still you inside, but you look somewhere and you say, what are all these wrinkles? That's not me. But because you inside you remain the same all your life. That's the way I think. Except you learn a little more along the way. But this elderly woman of 65, this really bothers me.
Well, I lead a very active life, I think. And I think probably most everybody does if they have good health. Mentally, you really want to do, and physically, you can. Why? I think we keep churning. I have a 31-year-old son who has his own business. And when he started that a few years ago, I said, you know, I'll help. And I helped for 5 years and ran the office for him. He looks on me, he's very grateful for knowledge, background, suggestion. And yet he looks on his father and he really is still helping him. We're old, but I looked on my parents as old too at that age, so I can understand that. But I keep very busy now that I'm not working, a home and grandchildren and illness and neighbors and whatever. So, I mean, the days aren't long enough for me. So I'm very grateful.
And some of you others, please tell me about your activities and your days, things you do.
My kept changing over the years, but immediately after I retired, I was just a reserve police officer for about a year and a half. Since we moved here, I'm not in that activity, but I work with the Red Cross on the disaster action team. I work with the Office on Aging on delivering mobile meals, taking people to medical checkup, writing some articles for the paper, and I try to work in some golf once in a while. The other little jobs that just take up all the time. I just have trouble working at golf.
I understand. James, please tell us.
Since I've retired, I like to keep my mind active. I think that's where we fail some. And I'll do puzzles, or I belong to a fraternal organization, and we support a nursing home and have a home for the elderly and a home for the children. We see that all children get at least a high school education. Well, we travel and go to these lodges. We take care of our elderly members, and I belong to AR&D, and I do a lot of work that way. In fact, I guess, well, this week, for instance, I won't have a day or night that we're not doing something. And there's always someone out there that you can visit in the hospital, or you can do something for her that's not able to do it yourself. And I enjoy that. I'm just glad I've reached the age where I can do something, and I don't want to sit down and just read a paper or something like that. But I think if you stay active, it prolongs your life as well as helping someone else. And I get more joy out of helping someone else than just doing something for myself.
All right. Anybody else want to join in and talk to me about, just give me a feel for their spirit of life and activities at this point?
My life is mostly centered around the church, because on Mondays I belong to the Dallas Prayer Ministry. On Tuesday I go to Christian Women's Fellowship. On Wednesday I go to Bible class. So I keep interested in the church. We have a church night dinner tonight. We're helping serve that dinner. And my life is centered more or less around the church and the church work.
Right now I'm taking a computer course because I just feel so, I don't want to feel so stupid. And I also work at the Office on Aging. I'm playing hooky from there today because this is my day going tight for them. But they're talking about putting in computers over there, so I figure, well, I better really look at it. I work at R.H.D. Memorial Hospital on Mondays at the information desk. Where we using computers. All I do is they tell you, push this and it'll work, and so that's what I do, but I'd like to know a little bit more about it. So I'm taking this course now.
Show me a show of hands. How many frequently do that kind of thing? And why do you do that?
Because we start out slower than we do 20 years ago. And I love that time to sit there and watch it while I'm eating my breakfast.
It really breaks the day. It begins to tell you what has happened over the night. You know, the news brings you up to date. You start off with, if you run John down the hall, he says, well, did you see so-and-so on television? You say, yeah, old Mary was on there this morning. Something like that. But really, it does bring you up to date. News-wise is what I watch it for. I don't care sometimes about the interviews. Maybe they're good, but I like to get the news, what is happening.
I like to get the weather because I'm out in the daytime before I start my day's rounds. And then I know whether it's going to be sunny, rain, or terrible rain, cold, or what to do. Because when you're out every day doing something, you like to get the weather. And I like to know, as the gentleman said, I like to know what's happening while I'm asleep.
It's just more interesting in my area.
Okay, to keep informed, it's more interesting to know what happens in your area.
Yeah.
Well, I watch them both.
Well, I do too.
But I watch both the news because I like the local weather, if nothing else. And the local news. I like the material about the local area.
Yeah, the local sports too.
And but of course, I watch the national TV, but change because of the broader coverage of the national news, their national news.
I think that we have too much foreign TV, foreign news on. I think it should be more in our own United States. Sometimes you turn on the TV and that's all they have. Maybe you get 2 or 3 items is what's happened in your own country. And everything else is happening places that you've never heard of before until you turn on the TV.
My main reason is the weather. And although the other weather forecasters are good, I like the maps and the details they give you. You can see where the currents are and how they're traveling. And although you might differ, your opinion might be a little different from whoever's giving it, you can still see what the upper air currents and everything and have a better idea of what the weather is going to do. And that's one reason I picked 5.
All right. For some of you others, what is it that draws you to a particular television station for their news?
The way they present them.
The way they present it. How many had that as an answer? Kind of the way they present themselves. Probably several of you do.
Warm personalities.
You like warm personalities.
You feel like, you're almost there.
Well, I think all of our local news, I think they're all very comfortable with each other. And I think that I don't see any nervousness or any friction or anything. And I think that they all present themselves beautiful.
Of course, they can't afford to let it show up.
No.
I mean, they could be friction there and we wouldn't know it. Well, that made each other's guts, but
when a tragedy comes along and they start presenting it, you couldn't tell it.
yeah.
But you couldn't tell it at all, although they're upset. They do not show it to any of them, though. And I think that's great.
So if I went around the room and said, how many people in the room, their favorite station is channel whatever, and you raise your hand, and I said, well, how many times do you watch that station versus another station? You would say, well, I watch the other station quite a bit too. Is that a correct answer?
Right.
At certain times of day you watch one and
Well, you're the kind of people that just drive television stations crazy.
Well, now, occasionally, if you're watching the newscast, they'll tell you what story is coming on at 10, what they're going to have. Or sometime on a program during the day, they'll break in like a commercial and say we're going to have a certain item on the 10 o'clock news. Well, if that's not the channel I'm watching and it's something I want to see, then I'll make it a point to watch that newscast at that particular hour.
Okay. That's true. Then let me give you an example. That baby was in the well out at Midland. One station in this city covered that much better than any of the rest because they had equipment that could go out there and do it. And that caused us to switch for that one day. But we're like him, we switched. Well, whatever it was, Saturday.
Anybody go get that one. You get the one there.
What is it you want in that weather
I
patch?
want to know what's going to happen.
What's going on?
All over the United States. Where is the weather
How
coming?
cold it is where we came to be glad we're here today.
Well, you try to travel. And I like to know, in other words, whether I'm going to be in the rain, take rain gear, or whether I can leave it at home and enjoy the trip.
In the weathercast itself, a lot of time is usually dedicated to the national maps, talking about all the weather systems and all of that. And then near the end, there's time dedicated to the forecast, what it's going to be tonight, tomorrow, or even the next 4 or 5 days. Is too much time spent on doing all those national maps with all of that?
No.
What more could they tell you than what they're telling you? At the end, they tell you, well, your temperature is going to be this, it's going to be raining tomorrow, the wind's going to be blowing. That's all you need to know. This other map shows you what, those maps or weather map shows you what to look for in the next 2 or 3 days coming.
But probably some bearing on that would be whether you've lived outside of Texas across the country and are interested in your relatives someplace.
I've lived here 68 years, but I'm still here as to when that thing comes out of Canada, when it's coming.
Do you like those things that they do, like the Doppler weather radar or the weather radar? Do you find that interesting, and you're able to read it fairly well and understand what it says?
they explain it very well, too. And if you listen long enough, you'll get it all.
Well,
Well,
it helps, but
I don't think it's that big of a
That big of a deal.
I don't know. If you really want to know, I think you have to get Channel 5.
Well, I think what they do is call the weather number about 5 minutes before they go on the air, and then they fix it all up. Because it's interesting to hear them at 6 o'clock. Harold Taft to tell you one thing, and at 10 o'clock you get to another channel, and maybe it ain't quite the same.
Two of you do. What do you like about that sportscast? A sportscast. Why do you watch it?
I like sports. I just like activity. And it's entertaining to me. It entertains me. And so I like listening to sportscast.
Now remember, I'm only talking about the sportscast within the newscast.
I know, but
not the coverage on Saturdays or Sundays of things. Okay. You see the scores and things like that?
I don't care.
For those of you ladies who do not seem to care for it, you turn it off. Why? You just don't like it at all?
I listen till it gets to sports, and I'm finished, and I'm up for the day or whatever. I think they're obnoxious. Some of them.
I really don't, because they have to have.
Well, why are they obnoxious?
Well, I'll mention Channel 5. That singing group they have on there, it just irritates me. The music, if you call it that, it's just not pleasant. And then they have they show the image of the group making the recording of the commercial. And I don't see any point to that at all. I mean, it doesn't tell me anything. It just makes a lot of noise in my opinion.
The mute button gets used.
The mute button. Okay. What other promotions are you aware of for local television newscasts that either you like or dislike, or at least stand out one way or the other, just that you can think of even? There's a lot of clutter of commercials on television. I'm wondering if you even recognize the commercials they put on the air for local television stations. Tune them out?
I tune them out. I don't hear them or see them. I have the ability to do that, and it doesn't bother me at all, but I am guilty of that. Sorry.
Well, some of them are so ridiculous, I just wonder who dreamed them up.
Well, almost all of you. Did you read that?
Yeah.
Did you read that pretty thoroughly? What else annoys you about local television?
They get on one subject and just point days and days and days, the same thing as news broadcast.
Many times they give you a one-liner or a headliner, and they don't explain anything. You know, say, well, now, come on, where's the rest of it? You don't hear any more about it.
I hate to see them get on a subject and only present one side of it. I can't think of any offhand except one, and I know it wouldn't be agreeable, I guess, but just like the gun situation. They harp on that about how many guns kill people and how they're used, but they don't tell the other side of what it does. But there's other situations that come up like that. They'll tell you one side of it if it's something that is happening.
Do others here feel the news is biased to one side or another?
Very often.
Definitely.
A couple of years ago, one of the anchor people, wife, was killed or committed suicide. And if there's another tragedy happening somewhere in the city, the reporter will go up to this person and say the little girl's been killed, and says, well, how do you feel about this? The mother. To the mother, yeah. Well, I think that's, and they didn't ask this TV personality how he felt about his wife committing suicide. That was just all covered up really nice and quiet.
Those are
You know,
Fiance wasn't.
yeah, or his kids. You know, I think those reporters don't have it all up here sometimes.
Sometimes the good news they don't put on. I do.
You say they don't put on the good news. Do you as a group think there ought to be more good news on television?
Yeah, I do.
Well, if something good happens, let us know about it, because sometimes you don't know about it.
Well,